Welcome everyone to Coaching in Session. My name is Michael Reardon, and I'll be your mindset coach this evening. And the title that I have for today is going to be talking about parents and the education of their children. And if you know anything about me, I'm a former educator. I taught K to 12. My last years of teaching, I taught special education. Now, that doesn't mean that I'm a professional. I'm an expert in the field of teaching, right? There's going to be more veteran teachers than myself. But when I compare myself to a veteran teacher, I can do just what they can, and I won't have a problem, whether it be classroom management, relaying information. I have a knack for it, right? That's what I went to school for. And though I'm not a teacher currently, I still feel for those children. It's difficult because I knew what was happening in the schools when I was in there, but who would have thought that the education would fail so quickly after I left? And I'm not saying that if I was still in teaching, the system wouldn't have failed. The system was doomed to fail. And it's sad because we have all these great minds of the world who are not getting the education they need. And in today's podcast, I want to share with you what's going on in schools, what's going on with your children and their learning, and how we can find a solution to get them on track to be the people they should be, because they shouldn't be behind in grade level. They should be able to read and write and be proficient. Now, the curriculum is going to be the standards, the basics, but the curriculum is not going to amount for your full school day. Yeah, they have to read, write, do some writing, but that doesn't necessarily fill up the whole day. Why do you think they can just apply critical race theory whenever they want? They can add whatever they want into the school day. It's not by accident. They choose what your children learn, and that'll be your government. Now, if you live in a blue state, red state, it doesn't necessarily matter. The schools are going to be run by people who think they know what's best. Now, I'm sure they have good intentions, but when you have people in the power of administration, superintendents, and they're coming up with rules and regulations for teachers to teach students, I can guarantee you is going to be operating under, oh, wouldn't it be nice if they learned this? Some of these people are going to be educators, former educators also. But some of these people who are creating these laws and these curriculums for these schools and districts never have taught in a class in their whole entire life. Now, would you want someone creating a curriculum for your kid who has no experience besides creating curriculum? Hey, they might be good at it, but I guarantee you if they had to teach it to those kids, they won't be able to, because there's a different skill, discipline that you need in order to be a teacher. Now, you might think, oh, teaching someone is easy. Well, 2020, we learned the hard way that it is not easy. Parents were faced with homeschooling their children. Now, some of them might have been at home because they got to work from home, but many of those parents are still going to rely on the teacher. And I'm not going to say that teachers didn't step up, because teachers did step up. But now we have a problem. Teachers are getting burned out. Restrictions are coming back. Distance learning, social distance is coming back in certain states. Children are behind. And I posted a Twitter tweet earlier the other day, and I was speaking with someone who's currently in the schools. She's a social worker. She's working with students. She's already in it. I was in it too. And I saw this before COVID even hit. She has a message that's similar to what I saw when I was leaving. And she saw the mayhem of what the schools and how students weren't getting the care, how there weren't enough teachers, class sizes were too big. You name it, there was a problem. Now, She says that COVID has ruined so many of the students' lives and their education. And I agree. It's not going to be easy for them. And then the conversation went down on that post where someone says that I don't think they're going to be able to recover from this. And rightfully so. It's going to be difficult to recover. It's not impossible, but it's going to be difficult. And the social worker friend replies that the students are so behind and the teachers are burned out. If you know anything about burnout, it's difficult to get out of. Now, I tell people the best way to prevent burnout is not to let it happen. Now, of course, you can apply self-care and use that to alleviate burnout, but it's going to come back quicker than if you never let it happen before and then took that self-care. So now teachers are burned out because they don't have a choice. They have to show up. They have to be there at work. And now they have more on their plate, even more now than what I did when I was a teacher. They have to worry about the students wearing face masks. They have to worry about probably having the desks at certain areas where they're 6 feet apart, if that's even possible, depending on the class. And then they have to worry about lines if everyone has to be, again, social distanced apart. It is going to be a task for any one teacher to have to do this for the whole entire school year. And then parents wonder why teachers get the summers off. So they work a little bit, they get their kids, they teach them a little bit, and then all of a sudden, summertime. Teachers are off, teachers are celebrating. But they earned that because they worked their butts off. But guess what? Now we're going back to 2020. Distant learning, social distancing in some states. And now these students are going to even get further behind because when a student gets a packet of assignments, of worksheets, they're not going to learn because they got a packet of worksheets. I can guarantee you that. That's not how they learn. And we talked about the different types of learners. Now, I can guarantee you, if you're a kinesthetic learner, being behind a computer, you're not going to learn that well. Now, of course, you might be able to move a little bit and you might be able to figure it out, but it's going to be a lot more difficult for you to learn. Of course, if you're an auditory or visual learner, you're going to have a better chance at learning and retaining that information. Now, can a parent tell what type of learner their child is? Maybe. I'm not sure if most parents even know what type of learner their child is. And it took me years for me to even figure out what type of learner I was. I'm sure if I asked my mother, what type of learner am I? She would say, I don't know, because she doesn't need to know. She didn't need to know. That was the teacher's job. And now that the teachers are forced, almost in a sense, to do remote learning again, or to be burdened with all these regulations and mandates, the stress is building up. And guess what's happening? Now people are getting more stressed, they're becoming inefficient, and they're burning out. How can we get around this type of debacle, this mayhem that's happening with our children? Because these children are going to be the next leaders of the world. And it's our duty as adults to raise them, nurture them, mold them to be leaders that we can rely on, not pass the torch when everything is broken and they have to figure their own life out. And it's sad because when I started this business, I knew there was a problem. I saw it. There's a gap in learning. There's a gap in how we're getting people ready to be adults, whether it be emotional management or just a simple task that someone needs to understand in order to be an adult. Taxes, investing, proper job protocol, you name it. People have to learn it on the job, on the floats. And now there's a hole Do you wonder why there's so many YouTubers out right now? There's so many people who play video games for a living. It's because they didn't learn how to be adults. And I'm not saying that being a person who plays video games is a bad thing, right? They get paid well. Now, just because they get paid well doesn't necessarily mean they're suitable to be leaders, right? Yeah, they're suitable to make money, they're suitable to pay taxes, but can they be the next leaders of the generation? And many people are not equipped to be leaders. The school trains people to be followers. And what I do is I help train leaders because I understand the need for quality leadership. If you do not have someone can follow, who will they follow? They will follow whoever decides to be the leader. And typically, the people who believe they can be a leader are not qualified. And for me, I just want to be a person, a leader per se, that I would want to follow. So when I look at myself in the mirror, when I look at myself on paper, I say, would I follow this guy? Yes or no? And if the answer is no, that means I'm not doing a good enough job. I need to do more. I need to be more efficient to be a qualified leader. And that's what we're lacking in the schools, leadership. And parents and teachers, we have a rough time already. And now we are burdened with having to take on additional tasks, be it because of what's happening in the world and society, or because the system that was in place is no longer functional. So we need to get out this carousel that's on fire because we're going nowhere and our world is burning down around us. So we need to start to take action in order for us to realize that the children are our future. And not in the sense of they're our future because they're going to take care of us when we're older, but they will grow up and either they will be strong or they will be weak. And right now we're living in a society where everyone is growing up to be weak. Similar to the quote I said before, tough times create strong men. Strong men create easy times. Easy times create weak men, and weak men create tough times. And right now, we're in a rat race of weak men creating tough times. And those tough times are not creating weak men because those weak men don't even have the drive or the motivators to become strong. There's no urgency in them becoming strong. Everything's taken care of, whether it be mommy and daddy or the government. They'll find a way to be taken care of. And if not, they'll reach out to a pair and they have a mediocre life, or they can complain and they become victims and they allow circumstances to dictate who they are. Sounds like a recipe for disaster, if you ask me. So, how can we start to make progress? How can we start to make headway on our youth? How can we get them going down the right path? And I can't tell you how many parents reach out to me and they want me to teach their children, like homeschool them. And I say, listen, as much as I would love to do that, I cannot, because I understand how much effort it will be to homeschool one child, a set of children. It's not that I'm not willing to do the work. It's just that if I work on one family, I'm missing out on all the other families who need some type of assistance. So what I offer parents is a chance for coaching, to coach the parents through what they need to do. And of course, the parents are going to get the curriculum, they're going to get a teaching book, how to help their children learn remotely, all the worksheets, things like that. Now, just because you have a book doesn't necessarily make you a teacher. It took me years in order for me to be an effective teacher. A lot of trial and error. And of course, you don't want to do trial and error on your child, especially when they're in the development age where learning is going to be essential for their growth. You don't want them to be behind. So how can we make sure they are ahead, regardless of your learning, of your education? Because you might have not have gone to school to be an educator. You might have gone to school to be an engineer, and you have no knowledge of teaching children. Now, of course, you were in schools before and you have an education. You can train them, but is it going to be in the way that your child needs? And it's going to be different between a parent and child relationship. They get away with things that necessarily won't happen in schools. Now, sometimes the students get away with things in schools that won't happen at home, but it's stressful. Because if you think about how much stress a parent has already, they have to provide for their kid, make sure their kid has food, clothes, all the basic necessities. And now they have to make sure they're getting an education and they are their educator. How can we get around that? And for what I offer is I offer a way out, and I offer it on my website, revenconcepts.com. If you're new to the channel, make sure to like, comment, subscribe, and to share this video with any parent, any grandparent, any teacher that needs some assistance, because right now we need to get people quality assistance, quality help. What I do is I offer my assistance to those people who want to make sure they're doing the best job in their field or for their children. So I offer many types of coaching, whether it be general life coaching, youth mentoring, career coaching, health coaching, fitness coaching, relationship counseling, all of those different types of coaching. Now, when it comes to the youth, we have to understand something. Right now, they are susceptible. They want to learn. They need to learn. Because if they don't learn, they're going to be unprepared when they become adults. So what I do is I mentor these young minds of the world, because a parent can do so much. And we can have a motivator for these young minds, and we can say, well, what are you struggling with? Let's figure it out. Can I give you something to help you get ahead? And that might be a lesson. That might be, let's get the math books out, let's get the calculators out, and let's get to learning. But I don't take on the role of teaching the curriculum. I help them where they need the help the most. And right now, where children need the help the most is mentally. They are mentally fatigued. They're burdened. They're stressed out. The levels of stress a child is facing in today's day and age in our society is the highest it has ever been, at least in my life. I have not seen this levels of stress in a child, and now they're trying to get around what is happening in the world. And it's difficult to put into words because I don't want them to be stressed. I want them to have a good upbringing, but it's becoming more difficult with this whole social distancing, mask mandates, vaccine mandates, schools, parents. It's becoming more difficult for our young minds of the world to go to the parent and say, Mom or Dad or Grandma or Grandpa, I have a problem. Because they don't want to burden you with their problems, because guess what? You have your own problems too. So they forego asking for assistance. What I do is I offer them an opportunity to come to an adult and to ask the questions they're afraid to ask the mom, the dad, the grandma, the grandpa, and not to just go to their friends for advice, because sometimes peers give bad advice. They're on the playground, they're on the chat rooms or texting in a group chat, playing a video game, and guess what? They offer someone advice, and that advice might be terrible. We're looking for quality. We're looking for quality leaders. And that's what I build in our youth. Quality leaders. And it's going to become more difficult for that to happen if we don't stop what has already begun. I saw this happening when I was a teacher. I saw the hole that was happening in society. The students are coming out unprepared already in 2016, even prior, 2013. I saw that. Now, just because they're coming out without the essential skills doesn't necessarily mean they're going to fail. It just means they're going to have a more difficult time. And I can't imagine what parent would want their child to struggle. Now, not struggle in the sense of having challenges. I believe everyone should face their challenges, have some type of difficulty in their life because it helps raise them up. But unnecessary challenges like not being equipped, not knowing how to balance a checkbook, or not knowing the basic knowledge, whether it be reading, writing, math, they need to know some basic level of that and some advanced levels of that to be able to move forward, especially if they want to go to college. Because in college, you're going to take your SATs probably. Maybe you might take a college entrance exam, depending on the college, and they have to see if they score, if they're on grade level or if they're not. And if they're not, they're going to have to take some zero classes, meaning that they're going to waste a semester probably, and they're going to get no credits, and you're out whatever that cost was for that class or classes. There's no reason that our children have to be unprepared. So we need to start to implement ways that they can become prepared. We need to get them the learning, the mentorship, whatever they need in order to be successful. Because again, the stress is high, and it's not just students. Teachers and parents, same thing. Everyone is hurting. We're going downhill per se. Now, are we going down fast? That's going to be relative to the person. But I can guarantee you it's not going to fix this year in 2022. So we need to stop the bleeding quick. You're not going to just wait until, oh, it'll get better. This is not going to get better. I did the math already. I'm going to have business probably for 20 to 30 years just on COVID, just because of this incident. I'm going to be dealing with people who have some type of trauma that stemmed from COVID. Oh, I didn't get the education that I needed. I didn't get the emotional support I needed. And now I'm having to clean up the mess that the schools or that parents weren't on top of. And again, it's not your failure, but we do have to pay attention, especially if we're parents, and look at our children and see what they need and to understand how they develop. Because every child develops in a similar fashion, but then again, they all have different personalities, and those personalities do have to be nurtured. And if you do not nurture them, their imagination becomes shot, and they just become a regular person in this world. Now, for me, I don't want that for my kid, my children. I want them to get the best education they can get. Now, I can teach my children. I don't mind doing the curriculum for them. You have to be the example. Teachers, you have to be the example. Parents, you have to be the example. And if you do not know how to be the example, head over to reverendconcepts.com. Become a person that your child wants to follow. And if you do not, then of course, any type of difficulty, trauma that comes their way, they're going to succumb to it. And they're getting the short end of the deal. All because of a virus, all because of a system that was already failing. And now that the weight of the world finally put some strain on it, it's starting to show wear, it's starting to break, it's starting to collapse. And we can stop it. We can stop this train from crashing. But we do have to step up, we do have to rise up, we do have to take initiative and not allow any more harm to come to the young minds of the next generation. They must be protected. They must be nurtured. They must be cared for. They must be led. to who they should be becoming. And this is not going to be about opinion. This is not going to be about values and beliefs. This is going to be about who they need to become, who they want to become. Because just because I believe something doesn't necessarily mean I have to write it off and put it on another student or another teacher, or another parent. For me, if you don't want to be successful, that's fine. Go to McDonald's, get big. Go home, sit on the sofa, watch Netflix. Doesn't hurt me. Doesn't hurt me any. Now, if you want that for your life, go for it. If you don't want that for your life, change it. I help people change. But in order for me to help people change, they have to want that change too for themselves. So children don't know any better. They don't know that they need to change quite yet. They learn from their environment primarily. So they look around and they get their knowledge base. That's how they learn. And they're going to see it as, oh, I always thought it was done this way. Or I don't like how it's being done. And that's going to be up to the child and their perspective. We can't leave education up to perspective. We need to be deliberate in what they learn and how they operate, because we don't need any more followers in this world. We need leaders. And if you want to start to build leaders, start at revenantconcepts.com. If you want to start to build leaders, start to look at your own shortcomings and then address them. We're in a pool of chaos and not many people know how to swim. So if you're interested in learning how to swim, if you're interested in learning how to get out, become a leader, be more efficient, more positive, and then aiming at helping your child, your children, your nieces, your nephews, your grandchildren, where they are, you have to be able to help them and not simply say, I don't know what to do. Because if there's a will, there's a way. And in every problem, there's a solution. So right now, they just need someone they can follow. And if it can't be you, then you're going to have to look for a mentor for them. You're going to have to look for someone who can help them along the way. And it doesn't have to be me. It could be another coach. It could be another mentor. It can be a teacher that you hire to teach curriculum, a homeschool teacher, whatever you need to do. But everyone's going to have a different circumstance. So understand your circumstance and then find the solutions for that. And of course, if you need any help, you can email me, coachinginsession@gmail.com. You can go to my website, head over to the blog tab, video tab, get as much information as you can get. And then to stay tuned for more podcasts on this matter, because it is a big issue and this is going to be something that I'm going to be touching base with, especially as the year progresses and we get more information on what's really happening in the schools. And then come next year, what is going to happen? Now, if we look at what's happening right now, guess what? It's going to be the same thing, and it might be even worse. So we do have to prepare for whatever can come our way. All right? If you're just tuning in, make sure to watch this video. You can watch it on YouTube or you can watch it on any podcast platform. I'm everywhere, Coaching in Session. And if you, again, have any questions, email me, coachinginsession@gmail.com, or head over to my website for any type of coaching or any type of additional resources, revenantconcepts.com. I will see everyone for our next episode, Friday, 7 p.m. Central Standard Time. Until then, take care.